Good evening, Oilers Nation. Thank you guys for tuning in to Oilersnation After Dark. I'm Connor Halley, Aaron Bordato alongside with me, keeping us on track as we recap tonight's loss to the Columbus Blue Jackets. And for the Edmonton Oilers, certainly a disappointing performance in this one. We're going to have Zach Laing on the show in a couple minutes here to break down and share his thoughts as well. We'll get to the good, the bad, and the oily. But as we do, per usual, we'll go with a quick rundown of what exactly happened for the Edmonton Oilers on the score sheet. To everyone tuning in on YouTube, hit that like button. Facebook, make sure you get involved in the chat. And if you're on Twitter, thank you for tuning in. Thank you to all you guys for tuning in tonight. Let's get to the rundown. And not a great start for the Edmonton Oilers. It was Bouchard getting his 14th goal of the season. That put the Columbus Blue Jackets up 1-0. And when that happened, I got the vibes of a 2-1 game. Not a whole lot going on. The Oilers looking like they had a couple of days off, didn't have their feet underneath them to start the game off. They would get back into it, though. Derek Ryan would get his 7th goal of the season to tie things up at 1 apiece. And then the power play doing their thing. Connor McDavid, a fantastic pass to Zach Hyman, who's in his office. Side of the net, little tap in, good goal for the Oilers. But Kirill Marchenko would score his 11th goal of the season for the Columbus Blue Jackets. He's now got 11 goals and 0 assists so far on the season. That tied things up. After regulation would expire, the game goes to overtime. You're all here. You know how it ended. It was Kent Johnson, the 2021 5th overall pick, with the game winner, his 9th of the season. The Calgary connection, Johnny Gaudreau and Goodbranson getting the assist on that one. And with that, the Edmonton Oilers falling 3-2. Their 6-game winning streak snapped. They are still the only team in the last 20 years not to win 7 games consecutively. So maybe they'll do that on the next upcoming games. A bunch of winnable games still to come here. But lots to get to here on Oilers Nation After Dark. We'll start things off as we usually do with the good, the bad, the oily, brought to you by Cornerstone Insurance. Cornerstone Insurance Brokers, Edmonton's premier boutique insurance brokerage with over 90 years of success and still growing. Visit cornerstoneins.ca/nation to get an online tenant or condo insurance quote in just a few minutes and use discount code NATION for an exclusive rate. Find out why Cornerstone Insurance Brokers is ranked amongst the best in Alberta. Give them a follow on social media as well, on Twitter at CornerstoneINS8 and on Instagram at CornerstoneYEG. For the good, the bad, the oily, we are going to bring in Zach Laing of Oilers Nation, but we'll start off with the good. Skinner! What? Zach, that's for you and myself, selfishly. It's the good, the bad, the oily, not the great, the bad, the oily. Stuart Skinner tonight makes 24 saves on 27 shots. This one was almost a default. We had our group chat going throughout the game. We're trying to find out the good. There wasn't a whole lot of good tonight, so we're going to give it to Stuart Skinner and get in that Simpsons clip.
Any chance we can reference the Simpsons on this show, I think we can do that as much as we can. Skinner was probably one of the few good things from this team tonight, right? I mean, right from the get-go, it was a lethargic performance all around. That's kind of what I wrote in my wrap-up tonight at Oilersnation.com, filling in for Bag to Milk, who was down at the game today. It was a frustrating performance all around, but Skinner, man, he was solid once again, right? He kept the Oilers in the game, especially in that second period there early on. He had those 2 huge saves. Kind of gave the team a little bit of life. Derek Ryan was able to score and, kind of make it a bit of a game.
Yeah, 100% lethargic. That will transition into our next little part of the good, the bad, of the oily. We go to the bad now. And for a team that, hadn't played since Saturday, I thought they might have their legs underneath them a little bit more. We saw some of the videos coming from practice. Looked like they were trying to do some drills to simulate game action. But the bad tonight, where was the energy?
Yeah, a lot of people are asking that question, right? I mean, you look at the games the Oilers had on their 6-game winning streak, and they looked a lot different than what we saw tonight, right? In each one of those games, they had the energy all night long, from the opening faceoff to the end of the game. And tonight, there just was none of that. I again, as I kind of wrote about, it's almost like the Oilers just knew how bad Columbus was, right? Like they knew they're the worst team in the NHL, and they're like, oh, we can probably just roll them over, and we don't have to put a lot of effort into it. Well, at the end of the day, there's no team in the NHL that tanks, right, Gary Bettman? And you can see that here. I guess it's a bit of an example tonight because those Columbus players were hungry for a win. They took the Calgary Flames to overtime on Monday, couldn't get the job finished off. So it was clear tonight that their MO was to come into Edmonton here and play spoiler, and that's exactly what they did.
100%. Keep those comments coming on Facebook, on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, hit that like button. On Twitter, hello as well. Big thank you to everyone for tuning in tonight, breaking down the Oilers' 3-2 overtime loss to the Columbus Blue Jackets. And let's get to the Oily. And the Oily would have been a lot more fun had they found a way to get the win, but the crowd down at the Ice District still booing Johnny Gaudreau. I mean, I think that's just how it's going to be for Johnny Hockey when he comes through Alberta for the next 10 years. He got in Calgary, deservedly so, and the Oilers fans down at Rogers continuing it tonight.
Yeah, well, it's kind of funny too. Like, I never really remember Gaudreau getting booed a lot while he was with the Flames. Never really felt like it was something. I mean, I guess you'd hear some jeers now and then, right? But to be as relentless as the Oilers fans were tonight down at Rogers Place, I thought it was kind of comical, to say the least, because if you took a look at Twitter at all, people were absolutely losing their collective minds that the Oilers fans were booing Gaudreau in the first place. But hey, you know what? He's a guy who was a rival of the Oilers for a very long time, and this is Gaudreau's first time back in Edmonton since the playoffs last year. So, pretty interesting to see him get ribbed so hard.
Okay, nah, who cares about Gaudreau? That comes from I don't even know. Grom LOL. Hey, it's the Oily tonight. We're just gonna get to it. We like the fans down there. Letting Johnny Gaudreau hear it. He assists on the game winner. We'll move on. We'll stop talking about Johnny Gaudreau. Zach, I mean, the chat's right now going crazy here on Facebook as well on YouTube. Let's scroll through Facebook here, and a few guys kind of getting a lot of the blame. Darnell Nurse, as per usual, and when they don't win, he's going to be the guy that gets a lot of blame. But Leon Draisaitl also. Mike says Draisaitl laid a complete deuce tonight. We're having talk about the shots from the point from Darnell Nurse, the flailing wrist shots from the point, as Scott refers to them as. I mean, like we said, for the good, the bad, the oily, there wasn't too much good to look at tonight. It was good to see Derek Ryan get the goal. I guess the power play was pretty efficient. But in terms of individual performances, you can look at Draisaitl, you can look at Nurse, you can look at a lot of people. It just wasn't good enough, especially with the Columbus Blue Jackets in town. Like we talked about, the worst team in the league coming into this game statistically.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there were some poor performances. I thought Darnell Nurse struggled. I thought Cody Ceci struggled as well. A lot of unforced errors on some icing calls, especially early on in the game. That really kind of chopped up the game for the Oilers a little bit. They struggled to kind of find their legs. I think that was a big issue tonight, was that the game started slow for them, and they never really seemed to be able to kind of get out of that bit of a funk, right? And we know with Draisaitl too, he's a guy who can be an up and down player. Like, he doesn't seem to have the same consistent level of play you would kind of think he would every single night. This one was definitely a bit of a down night, and you know what? They're going to happen for every player throughout the course of a season. 82 games is a long time to be playing, But I thought there were some good things too beyond just Stuart Skinner. I thought, Jesse Puljujärvi had a pretty strong game tonight. I really liked his game. He should have. I don't know if they ended up giving him an assist on the Derek Ryan goal. He definitely should have got one though. And then I thought Dylan Holloway had a good game as well. He seemed to be engaged all night long. He's a guy who I think has kind of turned his season around a little bit.
Yeah, Dylan Holloway threw that reverse hit there in the second, kind of, to me, a little sign that he's starting to figure things out at the pro level. Jesse Puljujärvi, I agree. Still no assist for him, just looking at NHL.com. Don't know if he'll get one, but he had a couple of shifts where he really stood out and looked good out there. But other than that, not too many bright spots. Looking at here throughout the chat, Jesse says, oh, man, I don't know how you guys do it. Oh, buddy, I worked on post-game shows in the Decade of Darkness. This is nothing. The Oilers were on a 6-game winning streak going into this one. It's one bad game, but if they bounce back on on Saturday, today's Wednesday, if they bounce back on Saturday, this game will be long forgotten. I don't even know if you want to look at the film of this one. Like, let's just throw it out the window and move on. We've got some more coming in here on Facebook. Shouldn't have even been close. What the F was that from Tristan? And Bassam says, Bouchard looks like he goes so lazy. You think Bouchard looked lazy tonight, Zach?
I think everybody looked lazy. I mean, I don't think there was anybody out there. Like even McDavid at times didn't quite seem to have the legs or the swung that he typically does on any given night. I think people single out Bouchard far too much. I'll say it right now. I think he's a lot better of a defenseman than people actually give him credit for in this market. And I think people need to be very, very careful with how we perceive a guy like Evan Bouchard. Because there could be people that want him traded, right? Like you listen to any of the sports talk shows in the city, and more than enough people text in or call in and talk about moving on from Evan Bouchard, but it would be a huge mistake. Evan Bouchard's a better defenseman than Jeff Petrie was with the Edmonton Oilers, and I think Evan Bouchard has a much higher ceiling as a defenseman in the NHL than Jeff Petrie does. And look at the career Jeff Petrie's had, right? Like he played in Montreal for a number of years. He's now a valued part of the Pittsburgh Penguins defense. He's been a very good second pairing defenseman his entire career, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think a guy like Bouchard has first pair upside in the NHL. Every player is going to have their down nights. Every player is going to have some struggles. Every player is going to blow assignments in front of the net. But I think we need to try and sometimes sit back on nights like this and remember there's a much bigger picture in the season. And I don't necessarily think that losing 3-2 to Columbus in overtime in the dead of winter in January is the time to be making bolder or outrageous assumptions about any player on this team.
Yeah, and I'll just hit it one more time. I mean, they won 6 straight coming into this. They now got points in 7 straight. So things are okay. There's going to be bumps in the road, like you say. And Jeff Petrie, I'll tell you, Zach, I mean, I've worked in sports radio for a long time. I've seen the text that come in. It's a cesspool. It's really negative, and it's all anonymous, so you can say whatever you want. But I go back to the time that Jeff Petrie was traded. The only person that I could remember was Alan Mitchell, the low tie. The only guy I remember that was actually like, don't trade him. The numbers show he's progressing, and it obviously didn't work out. And then when he started to trend in the right direction, and there was the talk of potentially re-signing him, he wasn't re-signing. He was on his way out already. Aaron Bordado tells me right now, we've got the clip of the Johnny Gaudreau cross-check, so we'll fade away. Oh, we'll stay here. I thought we were going to fade away and that was going to go full screen, but Aaron, thank you for bringing that one up. I like Connor McDavid on that little session. I mean, he's throwing his weight around. He's being a little bit of that agitator, drawing penalties. That was the only penalty called against the Oilers tonight. I'll put some blame on them. You got to move the legs and actually draw some. But what did you think of Johnny Gaudreau here? Maybe a little frustration, like the booze got to him.
Connor McDavid is rent-free in Johnny Gaudreau's mind, right? I mean, really, you think back Gaudreau's last play with the Calgary Flames, he had that soft play along the wall, and the puck ended up on Connor McDavid's stick and again in Game 5, the second round of the playoffs last year. So, McDavid I'll give him credit, he was physically engaged tonight. He had another pretty good-sized hit on Eric Goodbrandt, and that left that big defenseman kind of shaken up. But, it's kind of funny to see him, go lay the body on Johnny like he's probably done a lot of times over the year, and Johnny not too pleased with it, to say the least.
Mark Moore says on Facebook here, Oilers played at the same level as the Blue Jackets, and McDavid and Draisaitl just didn't look interested in the game. Yep, I won't argue with you on that one. I think there was a lot of a lack of energy on that one. Ryan says, how the hell did they blow a game to the worst team in the league? Any given night, Ryan, it can happen. Unfortunately, it did. Aaron tells me here we got the Derek Ryan goal if we want it next. Yeah, why not give some love to Derek Ryan here? This was a massive goal, Zach, because before it happened, like I told you guys in the group chat, to me it felt like this might be like an ugly 2-1 game for the Oilers if they could find a way to get it. Like they just didn't have the energy. Derek Ryan obviously gets the goal there, a nice finish. Good for him. A guy who, consistently hears his name mentioned about being sent down to Bakersfield. Good to see him get on the score sheet there in a time where the Oilers needed someone to step up.
We've said it all along. You cannot contain Derek Ryan. Look how lethal he is. I'm joking aside. It was a nice goal from Ryan. I mean, this is something that he's always been so great at over the years. It's felt like, or I guess over the last, year and a half that he's been here in Edmonton. he always just has this knack for being at the right place at the right time. He's a guy that I really, really value on this Oilers roster. You think of a lot of the guys over the years that rotated through Edmonton's bottom six, right? Like the veteran, physical, face-off guy who's a right shot, and they really never were able to do much in the way of anything on the ice. They'd always get caved in, and Derek Ryan's a guy who's kind of come into Edmonton here, and he's just been a really solid presence in the bottom six, and he can chip in with some offense too. 7 goals on the season. That's a nice little number for a guy who plays fourth line minutes. I've always been a really big fan of his game.
We're going to get to the Hyman goal in just 1 second here. Just want to check in with the – oh, sorry, Aaron, my bad. Threw you off there a little bit. On YouTube, a lot of people going, Rusty, hello, Cato, Smurfy, Gorgeous George, Larissa, Dr. Gonzo. I see you all there. Thank you, guys. Everyone else that I might have missed, my apologies. Joran says, I need a new camera. I don't know. This is the best I can do right now. And you don't want, like, HD. It will not be good. So we're just going to go with the blurry outline of me for now. But, we'll see if we can upgrade that going forward here. You know what? Some good stuff coming in here. And we're going to jump to that in a second. But I did mention the second goal, Zach Hyman on the power play. And, I mean, this, to me, it's just a guy going to the position he needs to be in. He's almost behind Korpisalo, but has his stick in the right position. And that's all you have to do with Connor McDavid, because he's got the vision. He's got the ability to execute. He's going to find you. This is just textbook from Zach Hyman.
Yeah, it really is, right? I mean, this is what the Oilers brought him in to be, right? As a guy who's going to go out there, bust his ass every single shift, and you know what you're going to get out of him. And on the power play, he's just tremendous. He's not a big guy, right? He's really kind of an average size NHLer, but he plays a much bigger game, especially in front of the net. And I think that's what makes him so valuable. And as you said, Connor, this is the perfect spot for him to be, kind of there, sneaking in around the net, throwing the goaltender and the defenseman off, finding a bit of the soft spot on the ice. And really, that's all you have to do if you play with Connor McDavid, right, is just kind of find yourself, a bit of a soft spot on the ice, wait for McDavid to somehow get the puck to you, and then all of a sudden you got an open net to be able to tap a puck home or to bank one in, right? Hyman's been a tremendous addition to this team. He's everything that we could have asked for and then some. And you look at the offensive numbers that he's had this year. He's really having a breakout season.
Dr. Gonzo says we need HD tarps off on Oilers Nation After Dark. Oh, man, we're going to have to start charging for that one if we get into that territory. Devin says we're 0-4 on these jerseys. I believe 0-2-2, and the final time that they will wear the reverse retros is on Saturday, taking on the Blackhawks. So another winnable game. Maybe it's time to retire these jerseys, Zach. I don't know, but the record speaks for itself.
Yeah, no kidding, eh? I always find it kind of funny because there really is no correlation between wins and losses and which jersey teams wear. But it is kind of funny to kind of sit there and be like, hey, you know what? I still haven't won in these jerseys yet, But Chicago, I mean, this should be a game they'll be able to get up for. Hopefully Evander Kane will be in the lineup for that one and give him a little bit of juice.
I was actually about to tweet out, can Kate send the PJ down to California and pick Kane up just before Ryan scored? So, delete, don't tweet it. But yeah, I mean, his energy, I think, was missed out there tonight. And, he doesn't have to put the puck in the net. He can just fly around there, maybe get the blood boiling on the other side to get the momentum going for the Oilers. I think his presence was actually really missed tonight.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I think he was out of the lineup for so long. It almost felt like to a certain extent we forgot about what the Oilers lineup was like with Kane in it, right? He comes back for the 3 or 4 games that he did. And as you said, the energy that he brought and the energy that the team had, it was substantial. And Kane plays with such a swagger. It's really like a case of osmosis. It goes through the rest of the lineup, right? Everybody feels that they have a little bit more jump in their step. So it seems when Evander's in the lineup. So hopefully he won't miss too much more action.
Cato says it's the boys telling Adidas these jerseys suck. I saw these jerseys in the summer and I was unconvinced. I'll admit they have grown on me. I wanted to wait till I saw them on the ice. Are you a fan of this look, Zach?
I'm the same way as you, Connor. Like I wasn't 100% sold on them. I'm a Seth MacFarlane truther. I really love the design of the original one. But it did grow on me more than I kind of expected it to, and I really do like this look. It would be cool if they could bring back the original ones and actually just wear those ones sometimes. But you know what? This whole reverse retro thing, every team's doing it, so got to join in the fun somehow.
Let us know on the YouTube chat, yay or nay. Do you like the reverse retros? Are you glad they'll be done after Saturday? We got to get the pulse of the people here. On the Facebook chat, Scott says, is Hamlin not drawing in because of his size? Thoughts on why he can't crack the fourth line spot? I mean, to me, it's pretty simple. It's just when you're going 11-7, somebody does have to draw out. Right now, he's that guy. To me, it's kind of an easy decision, especially you just won 6 games in a row. You're not going to be tinkering with the lineup too much. Maybe going into the game against Chicago after the overtime loss, you want a young guy who's going to be that spark and give you all he's got out there. So maybe Hamlin could draw back in. But going into this one tonight, not a big surprise to me. How about you, Zach?
Yeah, no, I'm not surprised at all, right? I mean, Hamlin really just kind of came up to be more or less a warm body and extra forward. Because, there was a great graphic during the game I got a screen grab of the Oilers record when they were going with 11-7 and 12-6. So with 12 forwards, the Oilers this year 15-14-2 with a 516 points percentage. 11 forwards and 7 defensemen, they're 11-4-1 with a 719 points percentage. That's a huge difference. And they're also giving up almost a little over half a goal less per game defensively as well. Those are some pretty impressive splits, to say the least. This 11-7 works. We've talked about it on the show here, Connor. We've talked about it other places as well. This team just really seems to be able to play well under it. And I don't see any reason why the Oilers should go away from it anytime soon, especially with Big Vinny D on the back end. Like, I've thought Desharnais has looked really solid. It's helped suppress the minutes and the competition for not only Desharnais, but for Broberg as well. Getting them into some more favorable positions on the ice is always a good thing. Because at the end of the day, when you're on the ice, you always want to be out shooting and outscoring your opponents. And that's kind of what's been happening with Broberg and Desharnais on the ice, albeit not at the same time. But there's some really good things that I think stem out of this 11-7 for this club.
Yeah, minute-wise, Darnell Nurse tonight, 25-48. Cody Ceci was second, just under 23. Then it was Philip Broberg at 15, Bouchard 14, Barry 13, and the Desharnais 12.50, and Kulak at 19. So kind of what you want to see here. If you're curious in terms of the forwards, Klim Kostin was the only Oilers forward not to make it to the double digits in terms of minutes. He finishes at 925. And, we've seen that. And it seems like when he has a game where he's not too noticeable, he tends to bounce back strong. So I don't know if you're going to head to Betway and maybe throw some money down on Klim Kostin points tonight. I think that might not be the worst idea, especially going up against Chicago. Betway 19 plus. Bet responsibly. Zach, do you throw any money down today?
I did. My Betway bet of the day was Connor McDavid to score and the Oilers to win on the money line. I had that one down at minus 112, and I'm pretty disappointed that it didn't hit, to say the least. I kind of thought that was going to be a really good spot tonight as my cat tries to climb onto my laptop. Everybody say hi, Rosa. Rosa, hi. Yeah, that was when I thought that was going to be a really good spot. I mean, obviously, you look at McDavid and you look at how poor defensively Chicago or Columbus has been all season here. It felt like this was one that the Oilers really should have won, right? They were massive favorites on the money line coming into this game at minus 350. They had the highest implied team total of the entire slate. They were implied to score 4.5 goals tonight. They didn't quite get anywhere near it. But yeah, no, that was the one that I was kind of riding this evening. But that's the game, I suppose.
I think you and a lot of others. Some stranger says, hi, Rosa. So Rosa getting some love here. Waz is watching. It's okay to be unhappy. Yeah, 100%. You can be unhappy with this one. You Grom Lol. Some of the names throw me off here, Zach. But you Grom Lol says garbage jerseys can't win. Don't ever wear them again. I'm sorry that I butchered your handle there, and I'm sorry they are going to wear them on Saturdays. So they've got one more in them. One more in them. Very quickly also here, we just mentioned Betway. Have some fun if you're going to throw some money down. Do so responsibly, 19 plus. Also want to let people know that the Nation Vacation is upcoming once again, March 10th to 12th. You can see the Oilers and Leafs in Toronto. Stay at the Royal York Hotel. Check it out at nationgear.ca, an experience powered by AMA Travel. We've recapped the Vegas trip quite a lot on this program, and now we look ahead to the next Nation Vacation in Toronto, a chance to class it up a little bit and go have some fun in the 6th. The Oilers, that's still a ways away for the Edmonton Oilers. That's going to be a tough stretch in March, I think, Zach, for the Oilers. But despite the loss tonight, a lot of winnable games coming up on the schedule. So I know we're living in the moment as we should, and people are frustrated, but I think we could get to 2 weeks and look back and laugh at this one like, oh man, why did we get so worried? The Oilers won 90% of their last games in the last month.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was Rusty earlier in the chat had mentioned about how the Oilers are, what is it? I think I'm just trying to pull it up. Yeah, 7-2-2 in January with 1 game left. If we win that game, we'll have a 750 points percentage through the month. I mean, that's really good. Right? Let's not sugarcoat it or try and downplay it. That is really good. And as you mentioned, the next 5 games, Detroit twice, Philadelphia, Ottawa, and Montreal. These are all teams that are far from being playoff competitors this season. And I wrote about it in the wrap-up tonight, too, a little bit about how, when you look back to the Anaheim and the San Jose game, and it was like, oh, wow, the Oilers actually didn't play down to an opponent this time. They came out with a bunch of energy and they pushed the pace of play all night long. We sit here tonight and we're like, oh, well, there's the old habits kind of creeping back into the Oilers game. Well, there's no better time than now than to nip it in the bud, right? I mean, Chicago on Saturday, that's a team the Oilers should beat up on. They'll have a chance to really rest and recuperate over the All-Star break. There's players right now that are banged up, right? Like, it's no surprise at this point in the season that some players are probably playing hurt. Some bumps and some bruises and everything like that. So, a good chance for everybody to heal up and kind of reset. And, I think heading into, Detroit coming out of the All-Star break, I think the Oilers are going to need to have a couple of hard practices, right? I mean, I really think that they're going to have to try and get their legs underneath them getting back into that game because, as we saw tonight, if they don't have a good start, not a lot good goes their way the rest of the game.
Yeah, check out the wrap-up 49. Lethargic Oilers cough up extra point in 3-2 loss to the Blue Jackets. A very appropriate title, Zach. That's at OilersNation.com. And, if you don't, if you're here, you probably read Oilers Nation, so I don't have to tell you, but check it out anyways. Zach, so now just looking at the standings here with refreshed, the Seattle Kraken beating up on the Vancouver Canucks tonight. Maybe it wasn't Bruce Boudreau. Maybe the team has some issues they need to work on. They fall 6-1 to the Kraken. So they do the Oilers no favor in the standings. With that win, the Kraken now tied for first in the Pacific with the Vegas Golden Knights. The LA Kings sitting in third with 60 points. The Oilers 2 points back with a game in hand of the Kings. So they take care of their business. They should be okay. But that's got to be one that stings a little bit. And even if they had won the game tonight, they still would be sitting in that wild card spot. But it's certainly going to be one they look at as a bit of a missed opportunity. Connor McDavid now 89 points on the season. He's 20 points ahead of the next non-Oiler in points scored, David Pastrnak. It wasn't a typical Connor McDavid night, probably not one that we had expected, but geez, this guy continuing to do what only he can do in the NHL right now and running away with that points title.
Yeah, he absolutely is. Might as well just give him the Art Ross now, right? Really, sitting at 89 points, that's more than a lot of players are going to score in the entire season, right? It's remarkable, really, to see how quickly he's able to, jump up there, right? David Pastrnak, he'll probably push for 90 points, maybe 100 points on the year, right? But in, say 5 to 10 games from now, McDavid's going to be at the 100-point mark. And there's not a lot of players in the NHL that are going to even hit that mark at all this season, right? Now, granted, there are a lot of more offensive players or a lot of higher point totals, I should say, than I actually thought, just taking a look at it. But, for him to be so far up on the rest of the field right now, in the Art Ross race, I mean, it's pretty remarkable to say the least.
Yeah, looking at points per game here, Connor McDavid 1.83, Leon Draisaitl 1.59, and then you've got Nathan McKinnon, who obviously missed some time due to injury. He's got 52 points, but he's at 1.49, and then you've also got 1.48 for Nikita Kucherov of the Tampa Bay Lightning. Let's take a quick gander here. There was one I thought was a good one referring to potentially too many beers and ice fishing. I saw the picture I think Clean Costin had posted about going ice fishing. I think he's more Canadian than I am now because I've never gone ice fishing. Like, he surpassed me in that category already.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, him and Dylan Holloway, and it sounds like there was a couple other guys that joined them out for a little bit of ice fishing. But I know some good team bonding for them, and it's good to see, right? They got to be able to have lives away from the rink, and I think it's always kind of fun and cool to see the relationships of the players away from the rink as well, because it seems like there was maybe a little bit of a bromance going on between Holloway and Costin here. That stuff's always kind of interesting to see. It's a far cry from the way it used to be when you could, when you would never really get these kind of insights into players and their off days and that sort of stuff, right?
Yeah. I want to check in here with Rusty, the Reckless Optimist. He always joins us on the program. Always happy to read the comments here. And he says, I think he puts it into perspective here. Still only 3 points back for first in the division. Connor is going to have a 10-goal game against Chicago, 50-50. That wasn't the perspective I was referring to, but that would be really fun to see. And then Gen X laughs says 7 points back from Dallas with a game in hand. Sky isn't falling because they had a bad night. And that's kind of what I wanted to mention on a little bit more. It was a bad game for the Oilers. It did not look good, but we can eventually probably at some point look back and maybe laugh at that and say, oh, it was just a minor hiccup. It's not as bad as it looks. It's never as good as it seems, but it's not as bad as it seems tonight either.
Yeah, of course. I think it's frustrating because, that 7-game win streak was right there. Right. And I think, that probably is the part of it that stings the most, I think, tonight, is the fact that, we were 1 win away from doing something this organization hasn't done in over 20 years. Would have been cool to hit that 7-game mark. But hey, you know what? Who's to say they can't go on another run, right, Connor? Really, this team is a good team. They are still got some flaws. They got some holes. There's very few teams in the NHL that don't have holes in their roster. But at the end of the day, the Oilers have shown their ability to put games together here. Now let's hope they can turn around here and start to do the same again.
Yeah, maybe they'll go on a streak and they'll be like winners of 15 of their last 16. And you can enjoy that one. Ron on Facebook says Oilers need to focus on doing their job instead of ice fishing. Oh, Ron, I disagree with that one. You got to have a little bit of fun in life. You can't just go shoot pucks 24/7. You got to get a little bit away from it, enjoy life. They'll be okay, Ron. Don't worry. I don't know, Zach. You work for Oilers Nation. You need a break every once in a while.
Absolutely. Everybody deserves a break. I'm sure Ron doesn't do his job 24/7. I'm sure nobody does their job 24/7. You have to have a life, right? And I think, Mark Spector wrote an article yesterday, I believe it was, on Sportsnet, talking about Ethan Bear and how he missed the game against the Edmonton Oilers last week and his dog had passed away. And, I think Spec did a really, really good job on this article because he kind of talked to some of the Oilers players about how, the narrative and the mindset around players as a whole and their health and their mental health away from the rink is something that's become a lot more to the forefront. Years ago, players wouldn't miss games when their kids were born. If you were, missing a game when a pet died, that sort of thing wasn't happening, right? But, the shift that we've seen towards reminding and remembering that at the end of the day, we watch these players on our TVs all the time, and we almost feel the need to hold them to a higher standard than being a normal human being. But at the end of the day, they are normal human beings like all of us. They're going to go through, highs and lows in their professional jobs, in their home life, in their relationships with their friends and their family. There's a lot of intricacies that surround being a human being and, being a professional athlete. The spotlight's always on, right? So it becomes a little bit more cumbersome, I think, for a lot of these players. But this shift that we've seen to ensuring there's a more balanced home work relationship is something that I think society as a whole can continue to keep doing better at as well.
Yeah, and you know what? I also read that his fiance gave birth to their child on Tuesday night. So
Yeah,
that's awesome. Congratulations. He's Papa Bear, which is pretty cool for them. And I think his fiance had posted it. So good to see she's doing okay. That's really cool. And yeah, I mean it's not the olden days where whatever happens, you're getting out there, right? We saw Stuart Skinner fly home for the birth of his child. Congratulations to them as well. It's really good news. And yeah, Twitter was something that night when the news dropped for the reason behind Ethan Bear missing his game. But
sure was.
big,
I was just gonna say, I remember back a couple of years ago in the playoff bubble when the Oilers played against Winnipeg. I can't remember exactly which game it was, but one of those games went to like double overtime or something like that. And Darnell Nurse's wife was expecting their firstborn son, and he managed to hop on a flight immediately after the game and still make it home in time for the birth of his son. So I thought that was pretty cool, from a couple of years ago. And then, think back to Phil Kessel last year in Arizona as well. To keep the Ironman streak alive, they set up a private jet for Phil Kessel so he could go out there, take a single shift, go get changed, and get home for the birth of his kid. So pretty cool to see teams helping make that stuff happen.
Oh yeah, 100%. Just a couple more messages here we'll get to on the YouTube chat. A lot of people saying, "Hey, no time to panic. It's just one game." Gen X laughs says, "You should have seen the Tampa Bay fan chat after the Oilers beat them. It's like they hadn't been to 3 straight finals." We're always gonna. It's a passionate fan base. Now that's what makes it so much fun, right? We're definitely gonna ride the waves and get way too into it at certain points, but at the end of the year, I mean, right now, big picture, the Oilers are in a good spot. Obviously, they can't have too many more performances like the one tonight, but yeah, I think they're going to find a way. One final question, and maybe we'll bring Aaron in if he wants to jump in here and become the third little box on the screen.
Hello,
hey, Aaron.
gentlemen.
Welcome to the party. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I think I'm staying much more positive than everybody in the chat so far. I mean, you know me. I love a hot chat. I love everything. We should take passage out of the wise Aaron Rodgers. Just relax. It's all right. We had to lose eventually. It went to overtime. We got a point. We were joking all day today that I could see them losing this game because, classic team in the league. It happened. We got a point. I'll take it. Hey, I'll see you tonight.
100%. And I mean, hey, that better be the motto for this team going forward. Figure it out. But on Facebook, Bill says turnover after turnover, dreadful. Yeah, 100%. I wanted to bring you in, Aaron, because we got a good one here. Oilers need defense, plain and simple. That Columbus defenseman looks pretty good. I assume we're referring to Vladislav Gavrikov. And we were talking about it in our group chat going in here. And the consensus was, well, you're not really noticing him too much. But sometimes for a stay-at-home defenseman, that's a good thing. He played 23-41, did it against some of the Oilers' best players, finished as a -1 on that Derek Ryan goal. But what did you guys make of his performance tonight? Because that's been a name that's popped up as a guy who could potentially be an Oiler. I've heard some people say it could cost the first round. I don't know if that's a price you're willing to pay, but Zach Gavrikov, what did you think of him tonight?
I'm not gonna lie, I didn't even really notice him. Like I was really trying to pay attention to him when he was out there, but I never really seemed to catch him when he was out there, and he seemed to play a pretty quiet game. Now that's obviously not a bad thing, right? If you're an NHL defenseman and you're playing a quiet game out there, you're probably doing some things right. But in the same breath, too, like, do you want to be spending a first-round pick on a guy who's just a quiet defenseman out there? I mean, in my mind, if you're spending a first-round pick on somebody, you want a defenseman who's going to be going out there and making an impact, right? Even just taking a look at his raw numbers from tonight, with him on the ice at 5-on-5, Columbus controlled 43% of the shot attempt share, controlled 43% of the expected goal share, only 36% of the scoring chance share as well. So he really didn't have a successful night out there on the ice, right? Which isn't exactly what you want to see. And now, of course, this is a Columbus team who, in general, is not very good and they aren't going to be very favorable to those numbers. But relative to the rest of his teammates, he was pretty much a negative in every one of those categories as well. So not exactly something that would give me a lot of optimism if the Oilers were to go out of their way to spend a first-round pick on this guy.
What do you think, Aaron?
Yeah, I agree with Zach. I mean, we were talking about it in our group chat, but I didn't notice the guy until we had mentioned it. And then I believe it was somebody on the broadcast, Jack or somebody, brought him up and was like, oh, yeah, they're, take a look at, Vladislav Gavrikov tonight. And I didn't see anything. Like Zach says, though, sometimes that is everything that we need. And, you can't really take down a defenseman for something like that. But when the price tag is a first-round pick and there's all these other guys in the market, whether that be a defenseman, whether that be a defensive forward, I know I'm hearing rumblings of your classic Jonathan Taves. I don't know what salary retention needs to happen, but it's like, I don't know if that's the first round asking price for that guy. I would much rather use my first round on something like that. Now, whether that's realistic or not, I don't know. We have Frank Saravalli on Oilers Nation every day tomorrow in studio. Shameless plug right there. And we can find that out tomorrow together.
I like that. You work that in seamlessly. That's why you're one of the best in the Nation Network, Aaron. That's what the people tell me. And you're backing it up. So for the Edmonton Oilers, with the overtime loss, 27-18-4 on the season. That's good for 58 points. A couple points back in the division. Lots of hockey left to be played. Their next game will come on Saturday. It's an 8 o'clock start when they take on the Chicago Blackhawks down at Rogers. They'll wear the, what are we calling these again? The reverse retros? Reverse retros. One more time. I blanked on the name there. I can't wait for them to be done. I think I've made my mind up on those. I don't like them. You guys think the Oilers get back on the winning side of things here?
Yeah, I think so for sure. I don't see any reason for them to come out and play another kind of game like that. I think they'll be fired up, wanting to kind of get 2 points against Chicago.
Yeah, I agree. Saturday night, they'll be fired up. I mean, I assume that means that we're getting Soup back in the net. And, I mean, he's red hot. We continue to let that ride. Keep going with the 11-7. I did have a scare today when I saw Desharnais take that puck. And I was like, oh, no. Not my boy Vinny. But then, of course, like the truck he is, he made his way back out there. And I guess somebody did point out in the chat, we did lose our perfect record with Vinny. But, it was a good run. It was a good run, and I appreciated every bit of it.
Still points in every game that he's played.
Yeah.
I like to think he just wanted to get off and go get some push-ups in. That's just the kind of guy he is. Like, get down the tunnel, getting a quick workout. Very quickly, got a big shout-out to our sponsors, Cornerstone Insurance. Check them out at cornerstoneins.ca. AMA Travel, if you want to go on the next Nation vacation out to the Big Smoke, Toronto, to see Oilers and the Leafs. Stay at the Royal York Hotel, Classy AF. Nationgear.ca is where you can get the package there, an experience powered by AMA Travel. And also, when the Oilers take on the Blackhawks, if you want to make some money, go to Betway, bet the over. I'm predicting some big points for the Oilers, some bounce-back performances, and a little more energy. That's going to do it for us here on Oilers Nation After Dark. On behalf of Zach Laing, Aaron Bordato, I'm Connor Halley. We'll talk to you guys on Saturday. Have a great night.